What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Tearlament deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because this deck is one of the most broken decks of all time, and I've included some really spicy engines in this build. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come for our notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this one. So first off, we've been playing 3 copies of Rhinoheart. Rhinoheart is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card is actually a walking foolish burial for your Tearlament monsters. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can actually special summon this card, but banish when it leaves the field, and if you do, send a Tearlament card from your hand to the graveyard, which is an awesome effect to help you get more Tearlament cards into the grave. We then play a single copy of Sharon. Sharon is insane because during the main phase, you can special summon this card in the hand, and if you do, send a monster from your hand to the graveyard, then send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, helping you get more cards in the grave. We then play a single copy of Havness. Havness is insane because you can actually play during your opponent's turn using this card. Because when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, quick effect, you can special summon this card in the hand. And if you do, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the grave. We then play a single copy of Meli. Meli is insane as a 1-of in the build because this card has the ability of its normal or special summon. You can send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, which is a crazy powerful effect to help you get more cards in the graveyard. And all 3 of these monsters actually share a common effect that if they do touch the graveyard, you can actually use them to fusion summon, which is absolutely insane. We then play 3 copies of Tearlament's Kashtira. Tearlament's Kashtira is like having 3 more copies of Havness, which is absolutely broken, with the ability that during the main phase quick effect, you can special summon this card in the hand if you banish a Kashtira or a Tearlament's card from your hand to graveyard. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can actually send the top 3 cards of either player's deck to the graveyard, which you're usually sending your own to the graveyard, so you can basically fill up the grave to go in for fusion plays. But this card also has the effect that if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can actually send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard, getting you a total of 5 cards in the graveyard off this card's effect, which is insane. We then play 2 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. Fenrir is amazing as a 2-of in the build, as this card can actually search out one of our best cards in the entire deck, our copies of Tearlament's Kashtira, which is so good. Plus this card can spot remove cards off the field, but if only 2 copies is really all you need. We then play 3 copies of Imseti. Imseti is insane as a 3-of in the build, helping us step into a copy of the Zombie Vampire, but also if you control King Sarcophagus, you can special summon this card in the hand. This card also searches King Sarcophagus by sending itself and another card from your hand to the graveyard. You can add King Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand and then draw a card. We then play a single copy of Happy because you do need to play 2 Horus names in the build to basically help you step into your copy of the Zombie Vampire so that you can mill 4 cards off the top of both players' decks. So this card is absolutely necessary for the Horus engine and a really good 1-of in the build. We then play a single copy of Fiendsmith Engraver. The Fiendsmith engine is crazy powerful in this deck, and you only really need a single copy of Fiendsmith to be able to pull it off. So this card is really good at helping you search out your copy of Track and getting you a level 6 monster on your side of the field alongside your copy of your Necroquip Princess. Makes a copy of a rank 6 play, which is really cool to be able to do and just absolutely crazy to be able to use it in this deck. We'll make a single copy of Lacrima. Lacrima is really good as a 1-of in the build as well, because this card helps you out a lot in the deck to be able to summon off your copy of Requiem, so that you can basically send the exact card you need into the graveyard off this card's effect, and it's just a really good 1-of in the build. We play a single copy of Lurie. Lurie is great in the deck as a 1-of, as this card has the ability if it's discarded to the graveyard, you can actually special summon this card, which is such a powerful effect to help you get an additional monster on your side of the field, so you can basically step into your copy of Requiem and then go full Fiendsmith combo. We play a single copy of Keldo and a single copy of Medora. These cards are really good in the deck at 1 each to basically just shuffle resources back so you can use them all over again later. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is great in the deck to help us search out the exact field spell that we need. With my single copy of Heartbeat. Heartbeat is really good as a 1-of build, just to help you deal with your opponent's back row. Plus, this card has the ability that if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can actually target a Tearlament trap in the graveyard and add it back to your hand. With my single copy of Fiendsmith Track. Fiendsmith Track is searchable off your copy of Engraver, and it's just really good as a 1-of, so you can basically search out your copy of Lurie, discard it, and go full Fiendsmith combo, so you can make a rank 6 play. We then play 2 copies of King Sarcophagus. King Sarcophagus is awesome as a 2-of in the build to basically just use this card with the Horus package so we can get 2 of our level 8s in the graveyard so we can bring them back to our side of the field and make the copy of the Zombie Vampire so we can mill a bunch of cards to the graveyard. We'll play a single copy of Pressured Planet. Pressured Planet is really good at searching out our Cast Hero cards, and it's just awesome because you can actually search out Tearlament's Cast Hero off this card's effect, basically being a rota for the build. We then play 3 copies of the Tearlament's field spell. This card is absolutely insane in the deck as a 3-of, as when this card is activated, you get to add a Tearlament's monster or a Visa Starfrost monster from your deck to your hand, and also Fusion monster and Tearlament monsters you control gain 500 attack. And it's a really insane card because it can also help you pop cards on the field, but this card is definitely a 3-of in the build. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Poly is just awesome in the deck to help you break your opponent's board, and it's just an insane play in the deck to help you make some really cool fusion monsters. We then play 3 copies of Tearlament Scream. Tearlament Scream is absolutely insane in this deck as a 3-of because if a monster is normal or special summon, and you control a Tearlament's monster, you can actually send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Also, for the rest of the turn, all monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack. And if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can actually add a Tearlament trap from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to search out your copy of Meta Noise or Soulkin directly from your deck to your hand off this card's effect. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Meta Noise. Meta Noise is really good as a 1-of the deck, because if you control a Tearlament's monster, you can actually target a face-up monster your opponent controls and change it to face-down defense position, and then send a Tearlament monster from your deck to the graveyard, basically being a Book of Moon and being a Foolish Burial. And if it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can actually target a Tearlament monster in the graveyard and add it back to your hand. And like a single copy of Trivikarma. Trivikarma is just really good as a 1-of in the build, because this card helps out a lot in the deck, because you can manage this card in the graveyard to be able to add a spell or trap card that mentions Visa Starfrost from your deck to your hand, which there's a lot of those in this build. We then play 3 copies of Soulkin. Soulkin is definitely a 3-of in the build and helps out a lot in the deck overall to basically just use this card as a negate, because if you control a Tearlament's monster, you can actually target an effect monster opponent controls and negate its effect, then send a monster that you control to the graveyard. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can actually add a Tearlament's monster from your deck to your hand, being an insane rota. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of Kaleido Heart. Kaleido Heart is an insane boss monster that's super easy to make, but does require a copy of Rhino Heart plus 2 Aqua monsters to make this card. It cannot be used as fusion material, and if this card is special summoned, or if an Aqua monster is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, and this card's on the field, you can actually target one of your opponent's cards and shuffle it into the deck, which is a really cool ability to basically just shuffle one of your opponent's cards back into the deck as a bounce. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon this card, and if you do, send a Tearlament's card from your deck to the graveyard. We then like a single copy of Necroquip. Necroquip is really good as a 1-of in the build to be able to work with our Fiendsmith package, so we can get an additional level 6 on our side of the field, so we can go in for our rank 6 plays. And like a single copy of Dracos Tapalia, this card is a walking negate, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in the build. And like a single copy of Garua. Garua is a great super poly target alongside our copy of our Mud Dragon. These cards are just really good in the deck, but sometimes you actually will make your copy of Mud Dragon using your copies of your Tearlament monsters, which is absolutely insane, so they can actually give you some targeting protection. We like a single copy of Desiree. Desiree is just awesome to be able to make in this deck, and absolutely insane as a boss monster. And it basically just negates cards on the field, and it's just a really big boss monster to summon out that can actually OTK. With my single copy of the Zombie Vampire. Zombie Vampire is so easy to make in this build, and just an absolute boss of a monster in this deck, because it can help you mill 4 cards off the top of both players' decks to the graveyard, and then bring back a monster from the graveyard out of the 8 cards that were milled to the graveyard off this card's effect, which is great to help you bring back your cards to your side of the field, or use this card to get cards in the graveyard, which is absolutely insane. You can play a single copy of Wave High King Caesar. You can play Pilgrim Reaper over this card if you want to for more mills in the deck, but I really like summoning out Wave King High Caesar because this card is just really good to be able to summon out as a double negate. But again, you can play if you want to over this card. You can play a copy of Pilgrim Reaper as a additional rank 6 monster that's going to help you get more cards in the graveyard, kind of like the Zombie Vampire, but I just really like this card as a negate. We play a single copy of Bahamut Shark to be able to summon out our copy of Toad. These cards are really good because it helps you basically get a negate on your side of the field. We play a single copy of SP to basically use this card as a double interruption. 1 copy of Sprint. Sprint is awesome in the deck as a 1 to help you get your copy of Merly in the graveyard. 1 copy of Moon. Moon is great to help you summon your Fiendsmith package. And then we play a single copy of Sequence to make our copy of Desiree, and then finally a single copy of Requiem. Requiem is absolutely crazy in the deck as a 1/0 to basically just help us go in for our plays, and it's really good in the deck to help us go in for our full Fiendsmith combo. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Tearlament deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try, because it's absolutely crazy how powerful this deck actually is, because it's so easy to summon out all sorts of awesome boss monsters to your side of the field, and be able to go in for game. So, that's gonna do this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of our notification squad. We'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.